And very briefly, and I waited for it to focus this time, this is the beginning of turn 2. The Mongols and the Armenians have their 2 sieges going at Aleppo and Edessa. They haven't managed to really get as far as you would want them to have gotten at this point in the game, I think. And, well, once they hit Damascus, the world changes a little bit, and we have the Mamluks coming in. We really kind of want to move forward in such a way that when we actually take Damascus, or if we finish Al-Masr off, that we're ready, that we have our forces together and we're ready to proceed forward. Now, of course, for the Muslim player, delay is good for them. The longer that they can hold the Mongols off at this point, and the more damage they can cause, the better off it is. So now the real question is just how much can they make them pay on this advance? And not a lot, but if they get lucky with shadowing or something, maybe they'll cause some more attrition. As it is, they haven't caused a whole lot. And one of the problems is, even if they do cause attrition, units just end up back in Mosul and able to move forward because they never demobilize. So that's kind of one big issue there. Anyway, we'll kick this one off and see what happens. That'll start tomorrow, though. Okay, so we started off this second turn with the 2 sieges. After a number of card plays, the Armenians have succeeded in taking Edessa. It was a diplomatic attempt by the Muslim player over on Kingdom of Jerusalem, of all things, trying to get that to join them, the kind of neutral but not permanently so. Trying to think, I know I had something I wanted to say. Oh yeah, that clears the siege change card. Penalty, so that you can make castles surrender. Not such a big deal for the Armenians, but it could be a big deal for the Mongols. And now as the siege of Aleppo starts to proceed, the Muslims pull a truce out, which means the next 4 cards, and the Muslims only have 2, aren't going to be spent on siege actions, and they can't enter each other's spaces. That's a pretty hefty blow. That's going to waste some definite actions, and the Mongol player is very upset about it because he had a Castle's Cowed card, which he actually played. Oh no, not yet. That was his planned next siege action card. But he could have grabbed a bunch of these castles over here and added them with that instead of holding it for the siege. Or, well, he could have made an assault. It probably wouldn't have been that bad to do so, but that was a useless card to him. It's a low point card here. So he was, looking at, well, I could gain castles, but it looks more valuable as the second card for this. I'll finish my siege, and then I can march south towards Damascus and maybe set up that siege. Almost as bad, it prevents him from moving his Armenians. They can't get anywhere useful because of that card, because of the truce. If he had cowed the castles, he would have these 3 under his control, and then he could have actually used these high-valued cards he's just throwing out to move the Armenians down, to maybe be prepared to do something. I'm not sure what. Okay, well, Aleppo has fallen, and actually the game turns complete. I did the demobilization already. You can see the Armenians, some of them back in the box. I forgot to give the points for Aleppo, though. That puts the Christians up to 12. What's their target here? Well, it's pretty high. It's in the 20s. They got a long way to go. They've got to get down to here. Everything but Egypt is sort of the okay version of things. I forgot to also check to see if the city caused a diplomatic change. It does. We got a 1 there. So the little marker goes there. That would make it easier for the Mongols to gain the Kingdom of Jerusalem from this. Alright, well, we're on to another turn. A little bit of positioning went on, but the Mongols came striking down to Banyas without getting any castles except for Homs through a slow movement down. You can see the penalty against them. Then they then slid back up to Homs and down. Basically, they did this in one step, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down here. They got shadowed there, took a couple of steps, indicated over there, in attrition. But now they've got a siege of Damascus. It's kind of important that Nasser Yusuf is free, though. He's not going to fall with Damascus. And when Damascus falls, we get the Mamluks. So that preserves a couple of units in strength, presumably. On the other hand, it weakens the ability of the Ayyubids to withstand this siege. But what I found is overwhelming force like the Mongols have, it's just not something you can stand against. You know, once the resistance factor gets low enough, they're going to be out of there no matter what. And there's a lot of cards left. So it seemed better to try to save the forces, maybe be able to keep Jerusalem or Karak out of Mongol hands. Big old stream of siege cards played all at once. Got that resistance factor down to 2. The Mongols attacked with that, figuring, hey, maybe I can take something else with the remaining cards I've got. Got enough to trigger my movement and one more attack card and maybe a random draw. So they went for the attack. Definitely weakened their forces. They've taken Damascus, and that means that we now have Mamluks entering this war. And, well, that gives the Muslim player something to do with his forces, really. Well, with his cards. Although he certainly had something to do in terms of resisting that. Now, the problem for the Muslim player is Egypt's hard to get to and from at this point. So, even with Damascus falling early, he just really can't. He could barely get into range. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here, with both his cards, he could get into play. Instead, he took a vassal move and shifted something from Minya down to Cairo. These are going to all have to get replenished and changed when, you know, due to demobilization, when that comes about. Well, that was kind of interesting. A Mongol army came down and hit Nasser here. He failed to get his shadowing withdrawal roll, but then in the battle itself, he had these Qadis motivate troops, and he managed to just completely outroll, you know, 6 to 1 on the dice, the Mongols, and did 3 casualties to them, only 2 to himself. He drove them back to Damascus, and that was kind of a heroic victory if you think about it. It's going to put things on the Muslims, and they're down to 1 card, so they can do another vassal move, I believe. Well, the Muslims felt like, the Mongols felt like they were fairly safe. They marched down through Basra, Jerusalem, captured both of them, and then marched through Ascalon and Gaza, and they failed to take either of them. Now, you'll notice there's green units there. That's because Baybars played this lightning campaign. He just took 4 of his units, sped them through here. He's that good, though. He's got +2 on the combat table, another +1 because of a siege underway. There was a siege of Gaza in place. Rolling on these tables, he actually got outrolled by the Mongols, but still defeated them and drives them back to Jerusalem. Alright, well, that's the end of the turn. The Mongols just played their single point card to pull another reinforcement into place. That ends the card play. So now we have the demobilization. And there it's going to definitely happen because, you know, Baybars here, he's got a couple of strength points, but I don't know if he can really be in place. And this is where it gets hard because the Mamluks are able to contest in this area, but they're going to have a tough time pushing the battle beyond here because they're allied with the Ayyubids. So even unless they can capture some castles or something, which they cannot even here. Here they're going to have to replace them and return them to the side that they belong to. That's kind of one of the problems, is there's nothing that they don't own. Their only real option would be maybe to take on the Kingdom of Jerusalem and try to build some fortifications or something there, or to take on the Templars directly, swinging here to try to build a route there. But they don't have to go too far. If they can dominate this area, we're talking 15 points for the Mongols. And 15 points, well, that's a draw, barely. So really the push is, we've got to make it to Damascus, and I don't know how likely that is. But see, things aren't just peaches and roses for the Mongols either. They're also at the extent of their range. Now, this is not, you know, this guy can carry 8 units, so he's allowed to maintain 4 as long as he's not sieging or whatever. Oh no, they never demobilize. Never mind, things are peaches and roses. Yeah, the Mongols never demobilize, so like Crusaders, they don't have to worry about that issue. It is an issue for the Mamluks, though, being this far out. And we can see there's a decent-sized force pull. I don't know if they can even bring everybody on board. They can bring 3 into Cairo. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's what they can bring back on. And it looks like they have about the right number. In fact, I think they can maintain their force pool in Egypt throughout the game if they hold all their castles. Alright. I think this is a good time to put a break into play, because we got 2 more turns after this. And it doesn't look like... well, there's an automatic victory for anything in this one. I know there was in the last one, and now you got me worried. I don't think there is. No. Yeah, take everything. Alright, so up this goes.